What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is Hawk Talk on Melrose, episode 2 of the week, as we are getting ready to take on Wisconsin Badgers this weekend. Arguably the biggest game of the year, because I think it kind of determines on who's going to win the West. So, got Tyler here. We are ready to roll. How are you doing, man?
How you doing, Collin? Doing good. It's Wednesday night. We're recording right now at about 5:45. Not gonna lie, kind of tired. Been busy today and just got back from working out and running a bunch of errands. But ready to talk some Hawkeye football. That's for sure.
Well, if we can get this podcast to be the next level, you wouldn't have to work during the day. We could just
That's
have
true.
this as our job.
Everyone
So people
go out and subscribe.
Yeah.
We could throw our Venmo in here too. If you want.
People can donate. I have some people that I know. Listen, hey, donate some money for us so we can quit our full-time jobs and do this full-time. And
along with betting, yes, of
we
course.
we will then produce episodes like some of those podcast people. They do a podcast like every day, or an episode, I should say, every day.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
God, what? Like I would run out of ideas and topics.
It would be so hard.
Yeah,
we'd have to expand, I think, beyond just mainly Iowa football.
Obviously. Oh yeah, we definitely would. Although there are Iowa, what's that one called where they do? I forgot, Eye of the Storm or something, where they do like episodes every day, but it's only like they only do like 15-20 minute episodes at a time. So I guess it's when you take that over the course of it because we do like 40, or I try. The goal is like 40. The goal for me is like 30 minutes, but it's hard. Yeah. So, all right, let's get right into it then. We'll talk the Wisconsin game later on in this episode. So if you're here really for that, you might want to skip ahead. Obviously, we don't want you to, but we're mainly for right now going to talk about as we are now, which I can't believe, I said this on the last episode, we are halfway through the year, which is just crazy to think that we have played 6 games already. Felt like the season just started. So we're going to do our mid-season report card for Iowa football, position by position. We won't spend a lot of time on it, but we'll go through each position and give our grades for 6 games, essentially. And hopefully, for some of these positions that are really bad, hopefully these next 6 games, we can up it. So we'll start with the quarterback. Tyler, you can go first.
Every position's not an A+ for you, or what? What the hell? I guess my report card is going to be a little different than that.
Well, and also, by the way, I don't know if I told you this, but we're doing this in A's, B, C, D. And like, we're not going to do like A- or A+ or B+. Yeah, just a letter grade, A, B, C, D.
Yeah. Make it simple enough where we don't have to go out and explain ourselves versus a D or a C versus a C+.
Yeah, exactly. What's the difference between an A and an A-? It's if you're in the A's, you're good. Like you don't really need more than that. So, all right. But you can continue.
You want me to kick it off? All right. So quarterback, I mean, I've got a D. It's not been good. Mainly, number one, Cade's injury. Huge loss. When you're looking at the quarterback room behind Cade, obviously it's Deacon Hill now is the starter. He has little to no experience. He's got now a couple of games under his belt as the starter. Hasn't played a true road game yet, and he'll get to experience that this week, which obviously I'm a little nervous about. But just that, and then combined with the fact that we still cannot continue to throw the ball, and the quarterback play overall has been, not very good. Like, let's be real about it. Hasn't been much positives, I would say, with just the passing game in general. And we've said that for 2-3 years in this podcast. So me being brutally honest, I've got to give it a D. Like, I don't think they've even played average quarterback play yet.
Are you sure you looked at mine? Because I gave it a D as well. No, I gave it a D as well.
I'm not going to give it an F. An F is like where, I shouldn't say, when I say we can't even complete a pass, which there has been times where I feel like that, but no, it's not been good. So
yeah, I was debating between a C or a D, but even when we had Cade, it wasn't good. And it wasn't because Cade's a bad quarterback. I think, and you mentioned the injury. I think it was like 70% injury, 30% system. and the route trees and everything. I think that's just, he was so limited. I mean, he was limited with the injury, but he was also limited because of our scheme and our system and just terrible. Right. So, so even with him, the stats weren't great. And then now with Deacon so far, it hasn't been overly impressive, and it's only been a game and a half. I get that, but I have to go with D.
Well, and also and I know this is, this is one game, but when you go 6 for 21, that sticks with you a little bit, right?
That's not good at all. So yeah, D for that for me. Running back.
I'm going to go B, mainly because of we haven't been healthy, right? Obviously we just got back Caleb, and he looked great. Mainly that one run, but he looked really good. Jazian's been out for how many weeks? We've had to play some freshmen. They had good minutes when they were in there, but I'm going to go B just because the run game isn't great, and I know that's not all the running back's fault, obviously. But just with the health of the entire running back group combined with, I just feel like sometimes, like we talked about earlier in the season, where, we felt like Jazian really hit the hole compared to Caleb, and he wasn't running or hitting that hole as fast as he should have been when our offensive line already wasn't as good, and this and that and the other. So overall, I'm just going to give it a B.
So, so you mentioned injuries, and I think for the amount of injuries, we've actually been better. Almost more impressive, granted, with the injury. I'm actually giving it an A simply due to the fact that as an Iowa running back, I feel like you're already having to play really well because you're going up against a defense that doesn't respect the passing game. So you have 9 guys in the box, 10 guys in the box. How many running backs in college football have to deal with that? We might be the only school. So for them to even finish with the yardage that they put up is almost impressive, because it's how do they do that when Purdue, for example, sells out on the run and puts 9 guys in the box? How do we even get that? And then let alone our offensive line, very iffy. So I'm giving them an A just for that reasoning. Now there's been a few games where it's been pretty bad, like Utah State game, Penn State game, but for the most part, it's with the injuries, with defenses selling out on the run, I think they've done as good of a job as you could probably ask them to do. Yeah. So I'm giving them an A for that one. So wide receiver.
I honestly could have gave it an F. I'm not going to lie. However, I gave it a D.
Yep.
Because they're a position group that depends on a quarterback throwing them the ball, right? And it's hard to even really grade them because they don't get the ball.
Get the ball.
They just don't. They
Not
don't
one completion in the last game.
Well, we don't even target the wide receivers. It's not like we do, but with Cade, not really. He didn't really throw to the wide receiver. Now Deacon, he does, but he's obviously kind of inaccurate and stuff like that. So it's just hard to grade it. But I feel like there has been times when the receivers do get the ball, we've had a lot of drops. And, and I'm not saying that you can make the case they don't ever get the ball. So when they do, they're not used to it almost. But it's no, come on. You gotta still catch the ball. So hard position to grade because, I said, we don't throw the ball that much to the wide receiver position in general. But I just feel like as a group, not great. And like I said, and I'm not saying, again, you could make the argument the same with the running back situation, right, where you got to get the ball for the wide receiver. So, but I don't know, just very, once again, underperforming, especially with the guys that I feel like have come in or we've gotten this year that were supposed to make such a big impact and haven't yet
to do it. Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not saying it's necessarily their fault again, but it's not been great.
Yeah, similar to running backs where we don't do them justice with 9 guys in the box. I also don't think we do the wide receiver justice with the route trees. I think our route trees are, and I've been saying this for a while, they're not good. But I'm also going to give them a D as well because, a little bit has to do, with the drop passes. And then also yes, I don't think the route trees are very good, but at the same time, I feel like our wide, and I've been saying this forever. we don't really create much separation. And I don't know where that, is it the route trees? Is it the coaching? I don't know. Is it the players? Well, it's been happening for so long. And you would think now with some of these guys that we brought in, the talent, the athleticism, that you would think that they would get separation. And we still, it just seems like we don't. And so I have to give them a D for right now. I mean, and it's hard to grade this position because, like you said, we don't really throw them the ball. So how can you grade a position group that doesn't get the ball very much? But I'm hoping that we can get that number up. I'm hoping that this is a prime example of what I said before we even started this, like hoping some of these position groups, we can get the grades up a little bit. I would love for the wide receivers. It's never going to get to an A because it's just who we are, but can we get them to a C or a B? I mean, that would be nice. So,
real quick, I'm going to advocate right here on this podcast. I know it's been 6 weeks and I know he didn't play last game, but let's get Caleb Brown a catch. Why don't we? Is it that hard? You're telling me a wide receiver from Ohio State that actually came to Iowa doesn't have a catch yet?
Yeah. That's I was actually going to bring up Caleb Brown, but since you mentioned it, let's just, talk about it. Obviously there was rumors swirling and it was personal reasons, but it sounds like he's back. But all I'm going to say is this, regardless of what happened, it is very disappointing that we have yet to figure out a way to get him involved. I don't care if he, is raw talent. He's
we
barely
we
no
get him
experience.
involved by end arounds and reverses.
Yeah,
that's our It's like, come on.
It's like there has to be other ways that we can get him the ball. Prime example, and I know, I mean, this is like the best of the best, but the Dolphins, Mike McDaniel, watch one of their games, how they get, what's his name involved? The wide receiver. I can't think of his name right now. Tyreek Hill. Just go watch one of their games. They are doing so many different things to get him and it's not just end around sweeps. Like, no, there's a lot of things that you can do to get a guy that is talented, that is athletic, the ball. So it's very disappointing because we get him and, we felt so good about it. And it's just, of course, we can't just be normal and find ways to get the best players the ball, like Charlie Jones. How disappointing was that? Seeing him go off to Purdue and just lights out, and now is on the 53-man roster for the Bengals. Like, the dude's stud, and we underutilize him. So, all right, let's do tight ends. I know technically you can maybe put them in with but I don't. I want to do them separate just because we utilize the tight end so good.
I was gonna say there's a giant difference in at least Iowa football with the tight end compared to the wide receiver. I'm gonna go A. Luke Lachey going down, huge loss. And, obviously one of the top targets for any quarterback at Iowa, no matter who's in there, Cade or Deacon.
Yep.
He goes down. And Eric All, man, he, like you've mentioned on the last podcast, he has really, really stepped up. And it seems like, once again, I mean, you could say this probably about any quarterback in Iowa's system, but Deacon loves to throw the ball to him. I know Deacon only had six completions last week, but 5 of them were to Eric All. Eric All has had some big time catches, big time touchdowns. And, he's the one bright spot for this offense that I feel like, we just got to keep finding ways to get him the ball too. You speak of a guy like Caleb Brown, obviously Eric All is that guy right now. And he's played really well. The guys behind him, I feel like, probably, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say this. It's funny because, I feel like we actually find ways to try to get Eric All the ball. So why can't we do that with Caleb Brown? Like, for example, the Purdue game, we line him up at fullback, acting like it was such a good play call. Like, it's plays like that.
We line him up in I formation and we sneak him out on like a little wheel route, and it's 100%.
Or the Michigan State game where we did a tight end screen where he scored.
We've done many tight end screens. So I digress as well. Trust me, I don't understand it. We do a very bad job of creating matchups for our best players on offense, I feel like, because it's just not what we do. I don't understand it. But yeah, I don't know overall. And then the guys behind him, I feel like have gotten good minutes. They're just obviously not a ton of experience, but mainly just because our offense, is the passing game goes as Eric All goes in my opinion so far. So I feel like he's done a phenomenal job. A few drops here and there, but it happens. So, A, I'm going to go A.
Yeah, I'm going to go A as well. I mean, thank God we got him. I mean, at the time when we got him, I was like, oh, nice. We got Eric All. former teammate with Cade, but I didn't really think much of it at the time because it's like, well, we have Luke Lachey, but like
And he's
literally
coming off an injury.
and he's coming off an injury. Yeah. But it's like now it's like, wow, like thank God he came because like you said, our lone bright spot on offense. And it's the things that are like the underappreciated things that you don't really think much of, but like his blocking, like go watch replays. His blocking is unbelievable. And it's things that you don't really notice during the games or you might not, give a guy credit for, but his blocking's been really good. But then, also in the passing game. And it's not just him too, but like the other tight ends have stepped up. They've been decent, but it's mainly been Eric All. It's been an Eric All show. And I don't know if you can get much better than what he's been doing the last couple games. Going to be the next great tight end out of Iowa.
100%.
There's going to be people saying, well, Michigan is the one that built him, which I can kind of agree, but he is really, his draft stock has really gone up ever since coming to Iowa. And he's going to be a stud in the NFL. He just has that like NFL body and he's going to be a stud. So really looking forward. And what's obviously with Luke Lachey getting hurt really sucked, but for Eric, it's been, I shouldn't say it's a good because obviously the injury, wish it never happened, but for Eric All, it's been like, it's given him the opportunity to really kind of showcase himself. All right. Offensive line.
I'm going to go C, average. I think there's been times where we've said, the run game, especially early on in the season wasn't, or, the run blocking wasn't good, but the pass blocking was okay to good. And then, there's been games where it's like, wow, our run game or our run blocking all of a sudden really opened up some big holes for our running backs and they actually did good running the ball. But, there's games where we didn't protect Cade as well. So I don't know, just very up and down. I can't say that, it's been great and that's unfortunate because that was a problem, last year. And obviously, another an issue this year, I would say as well. Like, I think if we had, if we could say that our offensive line was an A, man, that would give Deacon so much more, reassurance in the pocket. And then obviously, open up those holes for those running backs on a more consistent basis. I feel like consistency running the ball has been a big issue too. So just average, very up and down.
Yeah, I would say a C. If we were doing like C plus, B minus, I would be more like a C plus, very close to a B. Because there has been moments this year where like the offensive line hasn't looked bad. Like the pass protection is clearly much better than it was last year. And the run blocking is much better because we've been a little bit more consistent in the run game, but it's still not quite there yet. But I would say it's closer to a B than it is to a D, essentially. So we're at average right now, but I think we're closer to the B where there are actually some games where we play B. Now, like the Penn State game was like a D and an F.
So I was just gonna say that I guess when I'm grading the offense and something about that Penn State game really sticks with me because it's like that was our toughest game. And by far and away our toughest game, right? Yeah. Obviously, that was our only loss. So comparatively, when I'm looking at, the 5 wins versus that 1 loss, it's like, well, that team's way better than the other ones. And when we play that Penn State team, man, but you can't base it off one game either. So that's, pretty obvious.
Yep. Defensive line, we're switching out to the defense.
I really wanted to give it an A, but because I think it's closer to like a B plus, but since we're not doing that, I'm gonna give it a B. Up until last week, I really felt like in terms of the amount of pressure that our D line was getting was kind of underwhelming a little bit. We weren't registering the amount of sacks that I feel like, with some of those big names in the D line that we were hoping to get. Obviously, combined with the fact, obviously, we lost the starter, Noah Shannon, for the time being up until this 6 weeks, which I think he would have made a huge impact. Yeah. Obviously, he's a starting defensive lineman. Obviously, that would help a lot. But last week, obviously, was a great sign. 6 sacks, 12 tackles for loss. I mean, if they can I'm not saying get 6 sacks every game, but if they can continue to ramp up that pressure on opposing quarterbacks, then this should be closer to an A, I would hope, by the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm going with B as well. Completely agree with if Noah Shan comes back, it's probably going to be an A. Like you can see how it's getting better. I will say, I will argue that with the sacks, and I know people have brought this up where like you watch the first 5 games, teams were like just getting the ball out really quickly, and it didn't help our defensive line getting to the quarterback. Purdue, they were a lot more like let's just stay in the pocket, and they kind of suffered because of it. So, I would say a B. I also like another reason why I'm not giving it quite an A yet is because it's been weird. Like our run defense has been decent, but I also saw where like we're 9th in the Big Ten in rushing yards.
I was going to say there's been games where we've been like our average is they've been getting like good averages.
Yeah.
Against
and
us.
Obviously that all starts at the defensive line, getting that pressure or get, and so I have to give it a B now, but I really think that this group will get to an A, especially when Noah Shannon comes back. Talk about a guy that's going to be so fresh. And, I said at the time when Noah Shannon got suspended or whatever, I remember everybody was like, oh, our defensive line is so stacked. Doesn't matter. It's like, no, this guy is a senior. He's experienced. He clogs up the middle. He draws double teams. Like, I don't think people realize how valuable Noah Shannon is. So
I might have been one of those guys, to be honest, where I'm like, oh, we're so deep at that, that position. And I think it was more like, I guess, and we talked about it. If there was a position where I guess,
where
we wanted it to happen to, it's probably the D line, but it does not. Yeah. Obviously you're seeing the impact when he's not out there. So,
linebackers.
Overall, like Jay Higgins is a stud, man. He registers so many tackles. The defense is, we say this every year, but man, the defense is out there as a whole. The defense is out there so much more than the offense. And I think tackling, there's been times where it's like, man, we missed the tackle here or there, but just the overall linebacking core. Nick Jackson, obviously, I think one of the more unsung transfers, comes in. I think you sent me something on Twitter where like he has 50 tackles and what's his name who transferred out?
Justin Jacobs.
Oregon. Justin Jacobs has like 0. So obviously a huge pickup. I don't know. I would give them an A for as much as they play and they're out there. So
I would too, especially because think about who they replaced. Arguably the best, in my opinion, the best linebacker to ever go through Iowa, and Jack Campbell. And then Seth Benson, who wasn't flashy or anything, but he was just a sound football player, experienced football player, did all the things, all the right things, right? And then, you lose Justin Jacobs as well. So who they had to replace, there obviously has been a little bit of a drop off, but that was expected, but it hasn't been like very noticeable. And that's where it's like, that's where I have to give it an A. Secondary.
Tough, because I could go either way on this, but I'm going to give him an A just because. And there's been times where I feel like, we're giving up some yards here and there, and we're there, but it's more of a, I credit, Cooper DeJean, obviously a stud, is starting to register some of those interceptions now, which, it's good to see. A lot of times, guys aren't even throwing his way, so it's not, his fault. But I think overall, him getting Jamari back now for a couple of games, he looks like he's settled in nicely. Obviously Xavier and Quinn back there, playing really good ball. So I'm going to give him an A. Again, it's tough because it's like I could go either way with like a B, where it's like, it seems like our defense is giving up yards, but it's also they're out there so much that you can't blame them.
Yeah, this one was tough. I don't know. Maybe I almost
want to grade like safeties and corners separately, but if I'm lumping everything together, it's hard not.
Yep. For me, I don't know. I'm going to go with a B, but very, 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 very close to an A, more than obviously close to a C. And for me, it's just, I guess it's mainly just like, I don't know. In the last couple of games we have, they're starting to look a little bit more flashy. So I can't argue with that. To be completely honest with you, I thought we would notice Xavier more, being more of like a disruptor, and he really hasn't. I know the Penn State game, he really didn't.
He has a pick, but besides that, just
we've given up some just random plays like Western Michigan, like that should never have happened. Purdue, where towards the end of this first half where, I don't know I think that was on Xavier actually. Missed a tackle. We'll let the guy catch it and miss a tackle. And then there was another missed tackle and they scored like a 45-yard touchdown. And just things like that where it's like, but
yeah,
very close to an A. I mean, besides that, you're starting to nitpick a little bit. And I guess maybe that's what I'm doing, but I'm giving them a B for right now. And then last but not least, very quickly here, special teams.
So yeah, special teams as a whole. I'm going to give it a B.
Yep.
I think, obviously when you're looking at the punt return, I could give that an A+ with Cooper back there.
Yeah.
Torrey Taylor, pretty dang good punting the ball. It seems like not too many mistakes in the punt game, although I think he got one blocked.
Yeah, it was the first game of the year, actually.
Yeah. And then Drew Stevens, which I love Drew Stevens, but we've had some missed field goals now in back-to-back games. We've had a blocked field goal. Like, I don't know. It's just not been great. And I'm not saying that situation for him was necessarily his fault where like we remember, like, again, we talked about how we settled for that long field goal when, we probably could have just went for it or punted it away. But yeah, I don't know. Just not to the A-level standard that I guess I'm used to seeing from the special teams. I don't know. I guess I just have high expectations for Iowa special teams, but I'm going to give it a B.
Yep, that's what I gave it to. Pretty much everything you said is what I was going to say. So I think we're good there. But that's another group where it's like, I really think that it's probably going to end up being A towards the end of the year, with LeVar Woods as a coach. So, so that is the report card. We'll touch on this at the end of the year.
Yeah, we'll have to do this at the end for sure
and see kind of where we finish. But yeah, we have 6 more games left. So with those 6 more games,
only gets easier after this next week too. So I mean, I would think that it would go.
Things would, and you always get better as the year goes on too.
Yeah.
I saw somewhere or someone tweeted like they did a poll like how many more losses does Iowa have these last 6 games? Not total, but like the last 6 games. And I would say like if like the best odds, like if you were betting this, I would say the best odds would be like at least 2 more losses. I would say that would be the best because like Wisconsin and then just like the way our offense is, just give another game in there where I would say 1 lot more loss. I think that would be up there a little bit too in terms of odds. I would say anything outside of that, you would get, probably the odds aren't very great. I just don't see with the remaining schedule, if we actually 3 more losses, it could very well happen. I'm not saying it couldn't. I mean, Wisconsin and then 2 more right there. But I think 0 losses is I'm not seeing it with this team. I mean, if we went these last 6 games undefeated, I would be very happy. I just do not see that as a thing. I think we have a better shot of losing 3 or 4 more games than we do losing no more games.
100%. If we had a healthy Cade McNamara, I could maybe make that argument, even though our offense, the passing game with him wasn't great, but I can talk myself into it if I've got a healthy Cade McNamara. Obviously, we don't have that, so it's really tough to say that we would go undefeated.
Yeah,
for sure.
So before we get into the Wisconsin preview and prediction, let's rank the remaining schedule from 1 being the hardest game left, 6 being the easiest of the remaining. Now, we did this at the beginning of the year, and I saved mine. And some of the teams I had on there, I was like, oh boy, like I had Illinois way up there. And now looking back on it, it's like, yeah, that not good. Yeah. But we'll just do it for fun here. And I'll just have you just do your 6 through 1.
Okay.
And then I'll give you I'll give my 6 through 1.
We're going 6 through 1, like
easiest. So 6 being the easiest, 1 being the hardest.
All right. So number 6, I've got Northwestern.
Okay.
It's technically an away game. It's in Wrigley Field. I still think there'll be more Iowa fans than maybe even Northwestern fans at that game. So it's still Northwestern, not a great team. Should beat them. That's number 6. Number 5, yeah. Were we wrong about Illinois or what, man?
We were a little wrong.
It's still technically like what, a rivalry game.
I would say more in basketball than in football.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a home game, so I'll go 5. Number 4, I'm going to go Rutgers. surprisingly good start for them this season. Decent
Yep.
offense, decent defense. We'll give Iowa everything, in that game. I could see that being definitely like a tighter game than maybe it should be, but with our offense. Number 3, Minnesota. That obviously big rivalry game here in the next couple of weeks. We've won 8 in a row against them. It's almost like we said this with like Nebraska last year. It's almost like it's bound for them to get us once,
Finally,
right?
yep.
But it's a home game, and that's why I've got it at 3. Number 2, at Nebraska. I mean, they're not a good team, but they beat us last year, and now we have to go on the road. And it's they've got nothing to lose, so. And we probably have everything to lose at that, potentially at that point, like we did last year. So it's a road game. Anytime you play on the road in the Big Ten is going to be tough. So I'll give it that number 2. And then obviously it's pretty self-explanatory. Number one, at Wisconsin this week. Crowd going to be nuts. Jump Around will not be my favorite song this weekend. And then, yeah, I mean, anytime you play in Madison, brutal. So
yeah, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that here in a bit. So mine goes. I actually have Illinois at 6, followed by Northwestern. The only reason why I put Northwestern slightly above Illinois is mainly just because we have to go on the road. I know there's probably gonna be more Iowa fans there, but it's still like going on the road versus like Illinois is a home game. It's senior day, should win. And Northwestern's actually been kind of competitive. I mean, like. They gave Penn State their all in the first half, which we didn't do that. They beat Minnesota. Like, they're at least a little competitive. I mean, I'm not saying they're good, but they've been competitive.
Although they almost blew a huge lead to Howard last
They
week,
did, yes,
so,
which I get that.
No, but you're exactly right. They have played some of the tougher teams, for at least a half.
And then at number 3, I have exactly as you, Rutgers, Minnesota. Although I was debating, like, do I put Rutgers ahead of Minnesota? But the reason why I didn't is because, yes, Minnesota is a rival, and they have not beat us since 2014. And that is a game PJ Fleck has circled every single year. Like, he has yet to beat Kirk Ferentz. So, and then Rutgers, like, by then you're talking middle of November. It's going to be cold. It's just going to be your classic, like.
Well, and Rutgers' schedule gets real hard now.
Exactly. We're kind of sandwiched in there with teams like Penn State and Ohio State that they still have to play. So, how good are they going to be on the road in Kinnick in the middle of November when it's 35 degrees out? And their offense doesn't really scare me that much. So I have them at 4, Minnesota 3, and then yes, Nebraska at 2. Offensively, Nebraska's they're like us, not good. No playmakers, but their defense is good. So like it's going to be a very low scoring game on the road. I mean it's going to be tough. It's always going to be tough now, I think, with what's his name there as head coach. And then number 1, Wisconsin, which we'll get into actually right now. So we're pretty spot on. The only difference is Northwestern and Illinois flip-flop. So, but yeah, let's get into the Wisconsin game very briefly. I don't know if you saw the weather report for Madison on Saturday.
Well, you told me it's supposed to rain, right?
So yeah, and the last I looked, showers, high near 50, windy, with northeast winds 20 to 30 miles per hour with gusts as high as 40.
I love it.
Chance of precipitation is 80%. So,
hey,
take the under.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, take the under, but hey, we need all the help we can get. And I love weather conditions that, might even things out a little bit for both teams.
Yes. Well, and like, so I was reading something where like someone's like, oh, it's going to benefit Iowa because Wisconsin's like an air raid. But like, no, if you go back and watch Wisconsin, like they're not really, they only have 3 passing touchdowns. I think, what was it? Yes. How many rushing touchdowns do they have? They have far more. Yeah, 15. So actually, they're more of a running team than they are a passing team. So really, it might benefit them more than Iowa in some regards.
Yep. I was just going to say for them being an air raid offense, you look at the stats and they still run the ball 80 to 20% of the time comparatively to passing. I mean,
and why wouldn't they? They have Braylon out.
Exactly. And a good offensive line. So they run more out of shotgun, which might be a little different compared to obviously previous years, but they still, everything is predicated on the run game.
Yeah. And then who was their running back that got hurt the Purdue game? Obviously, he was pretty good. That was a big loss for them. I forgot what his name was.
Ches Malusi.
Yep.
And
he's out for the year,
had,
I'm almost positive.
That was, yes. And you, at the time, with the way they were both running, they were probably the best running back duo in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Dude, they were both running for like 100 yards a game.
Can't argue that. They looked really, I mean, we watched that game down in Phoenix. That was a Friday night game, and they looked very, very impressive that night, 38-17. So, yeah, just a little bit with Wisconsin. We won't get too far into it, but for me, it's like, I don't know. I honestly am kind of jealous of Wisconsin and the fact that, last year it was brutal and they made changes, and you can see the foundations being built with Luke Fickell, and that they're already like first year in, they're 4-1, and they've looked pretty impressive for the most part. And now, yes, they lost to Washington State on the road, and everybody at the time was like, oh, wow, they lost. But you go back now and you're like, well, Washington State's actually not a bad football team, and it was on the road. And they actually came back and almost made it a game. They lost 31-22. But other than that, like, they have taken care of business. Last week against Rutgers, the final score was 24-13, but it wasn't a lot closer it wasn't as close as what the final score said. So I don't know. I mean, this is going to be a really, really tough game for Iowa. I would say, like, Iowa, similar to the Penn State game, you almost have to play your best football to go up there and beat them. Now, Penn State is clearly a much better team than Wisconsin. I'm not saying that, but it's still going to be very tough. With Rutgers finished, by the way, 275 total yards this last game. So I don't even know if we get to 275 total yards. When was the last time we put up a lot of yards against Wisconsin? And I know it's a different coaching staff, different team, but it seems like every time we play Wisconsin, we barely can get to 200 yards. So
I was gonna say we're already don't look good, and then we play them, and it's like, oh boy.
So we're 10-point underdogs. I don't know if that line changed, but we're 10-point underdogs.
Yeah.
And I think the over under, it started at like 38. I grabbed it when it was like 36.5, and I think it might be down to 34. But I think even at 34, I think it's good, because I think, and we can just do our prediction now. For me, like,
yeah,
I think
I'm curious to hear what you.
Yeah, I think Wisconsin's going to minimum score 20 points. I think around 20 points is like the sweet spot, because you look at against like Rutgers, they put up 24, and I think Iowa's defense, and Rutgers defense actually isn't bad, but I would say Iowa's defense is a little bit better than Rutgers defense. So plus the weather conditions aren't going to be great. So I would say like Wisconsin probably will score 20-ish, maybe 17 would be a good, but can Iowa get to that? And I just do not see that. I don't even think Iowa comes close to like 20 points. I would say Iowa might finish with like 10, and that might be, that might be a little generous. I don't know. And maybe I sound very negative, but I don't know, man. Like, you got Deacon Hill, which, this going to be his first road game. Mm-hmm. Really bad weather conditions. So we're already limited at throwing the ball. Now it's going to be even harder when the wind is 20 to 30 miles per hour, gusting up to 40 with rain. How are you even going to be able to throw the ball when you can't throw it now? Wisconsin's going to sell on the run. And how are we going to put up points unless we get some defensive turnovers that lead to touchdowns or whatever? So I'm going to say Wisconsin 20, Iowa 6. I don't even think we find the end zone. I think two field goals.
I was really debating saying, how do we even score a touchdown? Like, go look. Like last week against Purdue, like, we go 6 of 21 in perfect weather conditions at home
against a not that great of a Purdue defense.
Correct. How are we going to do anything in the passing game come Saturday? You just mentioned it. Way better defense. Weather conditions are horrible. We already suck at passing. We have a backup quarterback who's making his first true road start in Madison, Wisconsin, of all places. I don't see how we score a touchdown either, Colin. I'm going 20. Because I think we're going to hold them to like a field goal. So like, I'm going to say 20. I'm honestly going to go 24 to like 6 as well. I don't think we score a touchdown. 24-6 or 24-10, somewhere in that range. And I think our offense is going to put our defense once again in terrible situations, and it's going to be. And you're right. The only way we got a chance, by the way, is if the defense comes up with, we win the turnover game, we don't turn it over somehow, which we've turned it over. It seems like every game at least once, and we're like unbelievable in the kicking game. Which again, all those things are going to be very difficult in those conditions. And we haven't proven that we can be sort of that dominant in those phases yet, really, this year. What makes me think that we're going to do that come Saturday? I don't know. I'm honestly going to go 24-6. I think it's not going to be close. It's going to be just one of those games where it's like, I want to turn it off. And I hate saying it. I honestly, like you said, I don't know how we score.
And what sucks about all this is like Wisconsin's defense. This isn't the same Jim Leonard Wisconsin defense from the years past. Like this, it's not as good. So it sucks saying that, because it's like we should be able to like put up some points.
No, agree.
They're because like
and they're not even the same Wisconsin. Yeah, they're not the same Wisconsin team as a whole.
Yeah,
really from years past. But
they're ranked 79th in the country in passing yards, opponent passing yards, 248. That's not very. I mean, that's not very good. Rushing defense, they're 25th, which is a little bit better. But so like, it's not like we're playing Penn State's defense, but
right. But I think it's going to feel
like,
that way. I really do.
It's going to feel that way because I would have to go and look at the numbers. I guarantee you Purdue's numbers are worse than Wisconsin. So,
and we talked about it. Besides that one big touchdown run from Caleb Johnson, I mean, yes, we still ran the ball pretty dang good, but Wisconsin's not going to give up explosive plays like that on defense. Like you can't convince me of that. They're going to shut down our run game, and we're going to be in 3rd and long the whole game. It seems like I have that in the back of my mind. I hope I'm wrong. I hope for once Brian and Kirk, and again, I know it's hard with the weather conditions, but we find ways to move the ball down the field a little bit and put our defense in not so precarious situations, if you will, where we turned it over and they got a short field, and it's like, well, because points are gonna be, like you just mentioned, points are going to be a premium in this game with the weather and just the defensive battle that we already know what's going to happen. Like, you just can't give them anything like that. So
I can see it now. We're going to elect to receive, which never makes sense. And we are going to get a 3-and-out right away, because we'll do the first play of the game. We'll actually surprise them by passing, but it will be like just a shitty pass or something stupid, and it'll be 2nd down and 10. And then our tendency is always on, whenever we don't get any yardage on 1st down, we always run the ball on 2nd down. That's just a tendency I've picked up on, that I guarantee you defensive coordinators have picked up on.
If you picked up on it, I can assure you I can bet you and my entire life savings that the defensive coordinators for actual college football teams know that too.
Yeah. So we'll run the ball then on 2nd down, get either stuffed or get like 1 yard. And it'll be like where we mentioned on the last episode, where our average 3rd down distance last game was like 7.8 or 7.6 or something like that. So it'll be like a 3rd and 9. And it's like, you might as well just bring Torrey Taylor out, because we're not going to get those 9 yards. I can already see it. I guarantee you that's what happens.
I just said that. We're going to, and right. We're doing Deacon Hill, a guy who's making his first true road start. No favors and setting him up for a 3rd and manageable, a 3rd and short. I can already see it as well, because we've seen it with better Iowa like offenses, even, and I know that's crazy to say, but like in better quarterbacks, but like everything's stacked against us in this game. I hate saying it. Because I hope I'm dead wrong. If we come out and oh my God, all of a sudden we catch them off guard, and great. I want to be wrong come Sunday on the reaction pod.
Exactly.
Right? But it's hard. It's hard.
I don't want to be negative, and I'm not trying to be negative. Everything we have seen, it's like, sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am doing a 3-team teaser of Iowa State plus 11 on the road against Cincinnati, 11 a.m. game. I think that game's going to be, I mean, they might lose, but I think they're going to hold Iowa plus 16 because once again, like if it's 20-6, I cover there. I think I don't see Iowa getting blown out unless you consider, 14 points a blowout. I don't really consider that a blowout. And then Iowa, Wisconsin under 42, which is almost a lock. So I'm doing that, a 3-team teaser for that. I think that should hit.
So is that better odds than what it would normally be?
No, the odds are not. I mean, it's almost like teasers. You have to bet more teams. Like for me, I did a 3-team.
Yeah.
Which, it's almost like betting just one game. Right. But now I have to get all 3 right. Yeah. So, obviously you have better, like plus 16, under 42, plus 11. Obviously that's better than what
the
they're
spreads
at.
and over-unders are better than what.
Yeah, but you're not going to win a lot, or you're not going to. You have to almost bet a lot, but you need all 3 to happen. But that's what I'm doing. I would imagine. I mean, the way I look at it, that should be a lock. But
if you can somehow get that, what did you say the initial over-under was?
38. Or here, let me look quick.
If that, I mean, 38 to me seems like a lock, 100%.
I'm going to look here and just see. It's down to 34 now, 34 and a half.
Yeah. And
which
I'm trying to think. I feel like in this game, it's always just because that's the thing. Even if Wisconsin, like you said, even if Wisconsin gets to 20, are we really getting more than 7, 10? No.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
Well, okay. So it actually opened, according to Action Network, at 40 and a half, probably very briefly.
Yeah.
So if someone got it at that, it's a lock because yes, because the final score could be like 20-17 and that's under 40. Yeah. That's actually under 38 and a half, which I saw.
Yep.
So whoever, if someone got it at that, then yeah, they are golden. So I don't know.
Regardless, it's going to be, let's just say I'm glad I get to watch it in the comfort of my home.
Yep. And, looking forward to that.
Watching it from my TV and just, hey, see what happens, I guess.
Yep, so. Exactly. So, we will end it there. Let's hope we are dead wrong. Let's hope we come on Sunday and it's like we get laughed at for being very
trust me, I want to laugh at myself.
Yeah, no kidding. I want to be jumping up and down in my living room with excitement.
Me, I hope and I think the other thing too, and it's kind of like Penn State where can we show up and look like a team that is competitive in this type of game though, please?
Yep, exactly.
That's
really and not just freaking embarrassing.
Not just go there and we lost by 20. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. I want to, it's a 3:00 game. I'm going to be so pumped for it. Don't let me down within the first 5 minutes.
What is a score, even in a loss? I'm saying, because I really don't think we're going to win. So if we lose, what's the score that you would hope to see in this game? That's respectable enough that you're like, okay.
I don't really care what the final score is. I just want it. Can the offense just look somewhat relevant? Can the offense just not completely shit itself and just be embarrassing? Can it look somewhat good? Because if it looks somewhat good, it's going to be a close game. So at that point, it's so if the offense can just look somewhat competitive, I'm happy. I'm happy. So, all right. Well, that will do it for this episode. We'll be back on Sunday. I was thinking this is our first game where we are both at home. Obviously the Iowa State game, I had people, out for the concert. The Penn State game, we were down in Arizona. We could honestly make an instant reaction if we really wanted to after this game, where it's very just right after the game. Emotions are high.
Hey, good or bad, yeah.
Yep. So we might. I was kind of thinking, I'm like, we haven't been able to do that this year yet. So
that's true.
We might do that.
We usually try to do one once a year. I feel like too. So,
and then that way, Sunday, we don't have to worry about making an episode, because sometimes it's kind of gotta make an episode. Well, I'm not really. Yeah. I love making episodes, but sometimes it's there's other things going on and stuff like that. So maybe Saturday night right after we might have to.
And if, like I said, hey, God, can you just imagine coming on here and we pull off some upset?
It'd be great.
Just some crazy,
I guess we didn't really talk about that, which we ran out of time now. But yeah, I mean, like how big this game is, where like, yeah, if
100%.
you win this game, you
We
are
talked about it. Yes.
so, you are very, very close of like, okay,
You're
now
a clear.
you're
You're a
clear shot
clear.
because
Yeah.
Wisconsin still has to play Ohio State.
Yeah, 100%.
And we would get the game, we would be one up
Own the
because we beat them.
tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So
Big implications for
we
sure.
could
As
afford to
always,
lose one
but
more game.
that's true.
Like if we beat Wisconsin, just say hypothetically, and they lose to Ohio State, they would have 2 losses. We would have 1, but we could afford to lose like Nebraska or Minnesota or something, and we would still have the tiebreaker. So yeah, it's a big game. And I almost would say like if we lose, it's like if you had tickets to the Indy or whatever, you might as well just cancel them now, because I don't see Wisconsin losing more. I mean, you look at their schedule besides Ohio State, they should win every game, the remaining schedule. So, but yeah, I guess we'll talk all about that.
Yeah.
Probably we'll do an instant reaction, but if not, we'll be back on Sunday. But until then, have a good rest of your week and go Hawks.